You can see the box for this kit is in pretty bad shape. I attempted to push it back into shape, but I think it's well beyond repair. This is probably the most sold and built solid wood kit during the late 1940s and early 1950s. I don't claim this as an expert or somebody who's researched it. I experienced it as a 7 to 8-year-old though. P80 was the first actual production jet fighter aircraft for the United States. You will note that it's a P80, not an F80. That's because it came into service under the Army Air Corps, not the U.S. Air Force. When the United States Air Force was created, it became the F-80. The P-80 or F-80 was a very successful aircraft in itself and led to the T-33, and that led to the F-94. P-80 was the first of Strombecker's line of fighter aircraft that had no landing gear and were displayed on a wire stand. This made it probably the cheapest Strombecker kit as well as a very popular subject. It was also very easy to build. Thus it had everything going for it. Popularity, low cost, easy to build, new idea. Its success led to a line of fighters and actually a bomber built with no landing gear and posed on a wire. This is illustrated in the enclosed ad. Here is a parts layout. You can see the parts are all very nearly their final shape. They need airfoil surfaces on the tail and rudder. Also, the wings and tail surfaces all have a positive fit between them and the fuselage. Here is one side of the plans. We start with the fuselage. As you can see, the plans are old and discolored and torn, but they're still there. You can also see that the fuselage is almost, ready to go. Its tail needs a little blending at the very end, and there are some very fine lines that need to be faired in here. The plans say the fuselage is completely shaped but requires blending of the lines on various points to obtain a streamlined shape, and so forth. So you're very close to there, but a little bit of work needs to be done before we go farther. I'll start the sanding with 220 sandpaper glued on a stick, and it will allow me to get rid of these transitions here that didn't quite clean up. And then after I do that, I'll use the fine sandpaper that was in the kit to smooth out the whole fuselage. There's some areas that need to be cleaned up around the tail too. Very minor though. Any way you try to install them except the front way, they won't fit, or the correct way, they won't fit. And they install with a dihedral angle already set. So this is a major advancement from the stick it on with the butt joint typical kit of this era. The wings are partially airfoil shaped, but there's a considerable amount of sanding necessary to round the leading edge and cut the trailing edge down to a thin trailing edge. Well, I finished sanding the wings and I've trial fitted them here. You can see that the leading edges have been rounded and the wing tips have been smoothed and faired into the new sanded rounded leading edge, and the trailing edge has been cut down to a fairly sharp point. And then I've sanded the surface with the fine sandpaper provided by the kit to make a better finish And I will now install the wings and move on to the tail. I finished sanding the rudder to an aerodynamic shape, airfoil shape. And I have to complete that job on the horizontal tail surfaces. And then they, of course, fit together and fit in the slot in the tail to basically complete the airframe. So here's the airframe assembly complete except for finish sanding, except for the tip tanks. Here's the finished model except for the canopy, which is the plastic part in this wood kit. It's really basic, but for a wood kit it's really nicely done, I think. So I'm going to celebrate it as a wood kit and paint it wood color and leave it that way. Here's the model finished and painted with varnish. Needs a cockpit, obviously. We'll do that next. And here's the stand for the base for the stand. So here's the final product as the glue dries. I tried to use the very old decals, and that proved to be a mistake. They all broke in at least two pieces as I tried to install them, and one of them was completely destroyed, so you only get to see the left side of the airplane. The problems here are obvious. Here's the P80 or F80 posed with the B-47, which was one of the last kit models of this type posed on a wire. There were two more, but they both included a lot of plastic parts, so I don't count them as wood models. Here's the finished P80 model, mounted on its stand and ready for action. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Also, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. I have a lot of other videos about old model airplanes and other model building. Thanks again.